Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you to this daily Hindu editorial video. These videos they come in the morning both in Hindi and English, and the PIB videos they come in the evening both in Hindi and English, and the PDFs you will get on the Telegram channel of StudyIQ and on my Facebook group of Amit Sani group for IAS preparation, and there I upload these PDFs daily. Today is Tuesday and maximum number of articles are there. So rest of the information that is going to be left today, we are going to take it tomorrow and 12th of February. Motivation for today, 3 words which are most important words: appropriateness, entirety and selection. If you want to get selected in the UPSC and in other walks of life also, these 3 words would be very important. You cannot perfect everything and you cannot follow everything. This is our tendency that we hoard items, we hoard books, we hoard knowledge, we hoard PDFs, and always we are burdened by their quantity. But you see, in the life also you need to put some things on priority and you need to focus on these things, and you should perfect some things which are going to be the most important things. The same thing you do with the UPSC syllabus. You have to select some books, and these should be appropriate first of all. So first condition is to bring appropriateness. Second is selection. Your selection is very important, because selection of the material, that is going to be the most crucial aspect, because you are going to perfect that same thing again and again so that there is no doubt left, because half knowledge is very dangerous in UPSC examination especially. And with this half knowledge you can destroy your chances if you are cracking the examination, if you are gaining those marks. But somewhere in some answer, if you are writing some wrong things, or maybe in the prelims examination where negative marking is there, then this half knowledge can destroy your things. So the main thing is that entirety. Whatever you read, whatever you understand in your life also, you should read and understand in its entirety. Okay, so that when you are going on this path of entirety and you are perfecting things, you are focusing on particular things, then everything you cannot manage, everything you cannot follow. You need to be selective. So being selective and being perfect is the need of the hour for you in your life, in this specific exam and in this particular phase of preparation and your building of your career. So these things are going to be very crucial. Next, these are the study courses, pen drive video courses by StudyIQ, and these are going to help you immensely. Always I talk about these things, and these are extremely crucial in this particular phase where examinations are nearing day by day. MCQ that I gave to you yesterday, Chinook C47F, we bought it from the company Boeing. Boeing is American company, Dassault is a French company. So these both statements are wrong, and D none would be the correct answer here. Narega allocation of work is for beneficiaries identified under SCCC data. This is not like that. It's a universal scheme. It's an employment guarantee scheme where unemployment allowances are also given if the job is not given to them. Okay, and PM Kisan, that is a conditional one where 2 hectare land, below 2 hectare land is the condition. Okay, so it's not a universal scheme for all farmers. That is wrong here. So D none would be the correct answers, because there are conditions. These are the words that I found. Try them in these sentences and the editorials today. Very important article today. It is about the data again. You see, the main issue, core issue is the age of misinformation, and misinformation is not only spreading the lies. Misinformation can also be brought as an age when right data is suppressed and that is not released. Then also the age of misinformation rocks, and that thing is happening right now. You see the resignation of two people from National Statistical Commission and the specific body that was created to check the quality of the data, and these people are raising a lot of questions. And you see government's refusal to release a report using a periodic labor force survey, PLFS. So in December 18 they denied to release it, and many other data which are from NSSO, many other surveys which are usually done, these are not being done since 2011 and 12, and many data are not released. So the main problem with these suppressions is that maybe these data are right, maybe these are wrong. That's a different case. But the main problem is that you are suppressing this data. You are hiding things. What is that reason? And this hiding creates the bigger problem, that is of the speculation and the leaks and the selective information that we get. That is the main issue. We saw it in Rafael deal, where the selective data was released. This was allegation by the government and some other people, some scholars, and even the chairman of this particular the Hindu group, Mr. N. Ram. He said that this is the entire report and we have done a commendable job. We have exposed these people. So in this age, the biggest problem with the common people especially, and for the policy makers, if they want, then this age of misinformation is a demon for their working, because nobody can trust. There is no trust issue in the democracy if misinformation age is there. People will have suspicion on each other. Nobody would rely, nobody would trust each other, and in the end the situation would come when people are only working under the fear and the pressure, and the fear and pressure of the powerful who is scaring other people, because the power and the authority, that is only going to work there because there is no trust. But if there is no trust in the democracy, then it cannot be called a democracy. So these all things start with the misinformation or the data suppression. So this is the issue of data suppression, means you are not releasing them, you are not making them open. So 5 trends we can see here. With the first trend, suppression of results seem to be a problem common to all the political parties. We know all the political parties today, their only aim is to gain votes and to remain in power. And if that thing is not possible, then to remain in opposition at least, so that many burning issues will keep coming and they will be remaining in highlight. Okay, so it is always a problem. Data is always a problem, and that's why they try these kind of things. Now you see, this thing is also working in their favor. When they don't release the data, then the government is saved from criticism, and it is saved from the right evaluation of its working. And opposition, they will get this particular point of raising this concern, and they will have access to some selective data, and they may have their own speculations about it, they may have their own interpretations of that particular thing. So it's all a degenerative activity ultimately for the democracy and for the people of India, because democracy runs on this trust. People press this button on the EVM machine trusting blindly on a particular person or a particular government. These days these are only trusting a person, but mainly they are choosing these parties to remain in power. But that's a blind trust, and that all runs on trust, because we don't have any curtail or we don't have any condition on these people. They are ruling us. So it all runs on trust. If that trust is lost, then certainly it is the most dangerous phase in the democracy. Anything can happen. There may be mob lynchings, there may be home wars, there may be coups. Anything can happen in this age of misinformation, and always the misinformation lies at the basis of all kinds of major political troubles in the countries. Whether we take the example of Middle East countries, Venezuela, or anything like that, always there are misreportings, misinformations. Right information does not come, and the issue of trust and the reliability, these are lost. Now say with the census 2011, they did some findings, and they did not release the religious and caste census data because it could impact the election results. It was about to release a particular demographic changes that could have been harmful for particular parties, so they did not release this data. And after that, speculations followed, and these speculations only, they remained very harmful for the past government, and these people lost. And now the same thing is going on. You see, at that time UNICEF also conducted a particular rapid survey on children and on their stunting, and based on their heights and weights according to their age. So that data was very crucial, but they did not release the whole data, and that created a lot of problem. And you see, NSS's employment and employment surveys which used to be done on a regular basis till 2011. Now these things are stopped. You see, Ministry of Statistics was given the main responsibility to publish these right data about the situation of the country, and for that thing only this NSS office, CS office, these were created. You suppose what is the meaning of keeping these organizations alive if you are releasing the employment data based on the EPFO's data, which is only giving you the data of registration under the PF registrations under the EPF organization, and there you see it is only based on the registering these employees, and that's a mandatory condition on these concerns where more than 20 people are working. So it is only the registration. It is not about the jobs, whether they are going to lose their jobs after 5 days, 10 days, or 1 month, 2 months. That does not matter. The thing matters is the registration. So based on this registration, if you are releasing the employment scenario of this country, then it's a clear joke, because why these organizations are there, why this Ministry of Statistics is there if you don't release their data? What is the problem with that? But it's a clear case of crisis. The second biggest problem is about these nexus between the media and the political parties, and that has become the most dangerous nexus of all time. If you talk about the corporate political nexus or the criminal or politics nexus, it is bigger than that. You see, these are spreading lies actually, and it is totally open. If you go through all their prime time newses, and if you go through their headlines and all, the most shocking ones, most controversial ones, most unbelievable ones are their headlines, and they put a question mark after that. They are so smart. Whatever they want to raise as a controversial issue, and the most disrespectful thing and the most shocking things they would put on display, and they would put a question mark, and they would be absolved of their responsibilities. But these are the real culprits actually. And now the governments, they have understood this thing, that people, they don't talk to each other anymore, and they only depend on their own interpretation of the data which they get on WhatsApp or on these TV newses. Okay, so that's the source of information they believe, and because they are watching it on their mobile, on their television alone, and that thing is creating an emotional boost in that person, that is creating a shock in that person. So that person would talk about this particular data to other person, and he would try to show that that's a legitimate thought. The way I have interpreted that particular information, that is right one, because everybody wants to prove himself as right, and because it is his own perception, his own understanding, his own interpretation, then that would be of prime importance to that person. And this is the way people are now supporting these controversial ideas, these controversial issues, and it has become so easy for the government. It is the easiest way, because through media they would spread these misinformations, or maybe they would try to suppress data, and they would selectively leak that data, and maybe some information is got they get from anywhere, from their independent sources. So they would release these selective data, and the appetite for news is incessant, and the news cycle is very short. So for a short period of time, that news would run, and that would fetch them a big amount of TRPs, and that is the ultimate goal, and that is how they earn. Now see, in the case of census 2001, and in the case of this rapid survey on children, in both these cases they released wrong data. Okay, and it was the election time especially. So at that time it created enormous amount of controversy, and it was totally harmful for a particular party, or it is totally beneficial for a particular party who raised this issue. So it is all a setting. Now see, in this case they said that the Hindu growth rate is very less, and the Muslim growth rate, population growth rate, is very high. It was shown in the 2001 census, and when this data was released in September 2004, so this was very controversial. And after that, when they came to know that this was not the situation, because in 1991 census data, JNK's population numbers were not counted, and because of this only the numbers were skewed. And the reality was that Muslim population also declined in that particular phase, so the growth rate also declined in that particular phase. So that was the reality. After that, they shifted this blame on a very competent and honest officer who was Registrar General, Mr. J.K. Banthia, and they sent him to bureaucratic exile. They posted him to some very inaccessible and distant place. So he bore the burden of their mistake, and that was an intentional mistake because they wanted to create controversy, and they wanted to have the attention of the people, and they wanted to spread this misinformation. They wanted to spread the lies. So it started way back. So it doesn't matter which party is there, but they all are involved in this particular thing, this media political nexus, and this lust of TRPs and the earnings. Third one, in a world dominated by WikiLeaks, suppressing reports seem to create an even bigger problem. That is the problem of speculation and the wrong interpretation. As I explained to you, in the case of RSOC, this was done by, I forgot, UNICEF, Rapid Servant Children. It was done by UNICEF for the Ministry of Child Development. So they again did not release the right data, and some speculations followed, and wrong data was given. It was comparing the state Gujarat and Bihar, and these reports were showing that Bihar has done enormous growth there, and Gujarat's report is negative, and that is totally ineffective. But later they found out that Gujarat's condition was nowhere like that. It was similar to the Bihar's condition, and these both states, they had made progress there, and the data which was showing a huge difference, a huge negative assessment of their progress, that was wrong. But that was way later, and during the elections these things impacted a lot, and people were totally misguided by these particular reports which appeared in the media houses. So these media houses are real culprits, and nobody is taking a particular concern for these people, because these are the real culprits. They are actually destroying our democracy with these fake newses, or maybe these fake interpretations. The fake interpretation is the major problem today. They are not talking about the fake newses, but they would manipulate people's mind by changing the mood of that particular news, that by changing the interpretation. So the interpretation is false, and that would be going according to the maybe for the ruling party, and maybe for the people who are ruling these media corporate houses. These are actually corporate houses, and these are run by some politicians, or maybe some big corporate persons, and they have nexus with the politicians, maybe political parties, maybe government, and these things are totally going on and destroying our democracy. So this age of speculation, misinterpretation, it can bring very, very dangerous consequences for our country. You see, in this speculation, The Economist, a paper, cherry-picked its comparisons with this particular data, and they showed that stunting decline in Gujarat was greater than in Bihar, and 10.1 percentage point as opposed to the 6% points. So these are the data, they don't matter much, but the thing that matters here, that they only seem to have access to the report and led the headlines. So it was the selective leakage and the speculation that followed. And who is going to believe? Because when first they are coming and when they are interpreting these things wrong, and after some time that thing is proved that their story was fake, their story was wrong, their interpretation was wrong, then who is gonna believe on these news headlines after some years or after some time? Nobody is gonna believe, and that would be the age of mistrust, and that is the most dangerous thing for the democracy. People would have suspicion on everything, and when they don't have confidence on anything, they don't have trust on anything, then democracy cannot run. So we are moving very fast towards this particular debacle, this particular devastation, and that is all because of this political ambition and the political media nexus, which is actually rocking with this misinformation age and the misinterpretation age of speculation. The employment picture, as you see, between 2004-5 and 2011-12, work participation rates for rural women of working age 25 to 65 age group fell from 57 to 43%. The report was showing a 14% decline. But you see, they don't release the data. That is why this is the problem. Now see, the real reason of this particular decline was not the inefficiency of the government. Government was not responsible for this decline. Actually, the higher level of mechanization, machines which were being used, and the higher per capita income, and people who were involved with farming and these house businesses and all. So these women were less employed, and maybe they were getting more higher education. That's why they were not enrolling themselves into, or maybe they were not opting these jobs. So that is why these were the major reasons of this particular decline in the rural women's employment scenario. So we cannot blame government for that. But you see, the problem is that government is not releasing the right data. Then people would certainly speculate about it, and they would come up with these kind of assessments where that thing may go totally against the government. Maybe government is doing right things, or maybe government is fooling people. Both cases are possible, but in both the cases they should release the right data so that right evaluation follows. But they are not releasing the data. That is the biggest problem. That is the biggest issue, and that shows, that gives evidence that these people are misleading the populations, because they are not releasing the right data and selective data, and some unnecessary and useless data they are releasing. As we have seen the case of employment scenario, how you can ascertain employment by the EPFO data. EPFO, you see, I am a selected enforcement officer in the EPFO organization. I have cleared this examination, and EPFO's it was a mandatory condition that was imposed 1.5 years back, where they said that the concerns where more than 20 people are working, so their registration with the EPFO organization is necessary, and for 3 years government would give employers contribution in this PF. So that was a great scheme by the government. But releasing employment scenario based on this particular registration data is totally a foolish thing. It does not show the right employment scenario, because it is only talking about the registration. Maybe after some time people are leaving the jobs, then their PF accounts would remain, their registrations would remain, they would not be cancelled. But this data shows that these people are employed. So you are ignoring the Ministry of Statistics data. You are not releasing their data who are actually working for them, and you are releasing some other organizations data, these which are never used for showing employment. Then that's a big problem. And you see, in this vicious cycle, how do we get out of it? That is the major issue. Only way is to put right information, right data in the public domain, and it should be followed with the right evaluation and the deeper analysis that should follow. Otherwise you cannot make right policies, you cannot make right decisions, and you will continue, you yourself, means the government itself is going to be in a deep trouble, because they will have to manage everything. They will have to manage this misinformation age and this speculation age, and in the end they won't be able to. So that's the gist of this particular article, and this is very wrong when it has become a typical thing for governments and the political parties that anyhow spread any kind of information, and this has become so intensive in the recent years. If you're exposed after some time, then don't concede that, and maybe you have to shift these blames on the bureaucrats and some officials, suspend them, transfer them, and everything would be easy for them, and they would be free of their responsibilities. So this is the common thing, but it is eroding the roots of democracy slowly and consistently. That is the major problem. This is the consistent hit on the roots of our democracy. Now the case of judiciary and the post-retirement phase of these judges. It is important under the GS paper 2 of mains. This issue came into highlight and in discussion again when this case of Justice A.K. Sikri came up, and when he was made a member in the panel who decided about the Alok Verma, the CBI director's fate. So Chief Justice of India nominated Justice A.K. Sikri there, and PM was the chairman and leader of opposition was the other person. So these three people were there. And you see, just after that, after very next day, government offered Justice A.K. Sikri a important and very lucrative job, and that was to work as an advocate in some Commonwealth institution. So that was a great offer for him after retirement, but Justice Sikri had to turn it down because a major controversy erupted after that. That maybe you are given this offer because you favored government in any way. So that was the issue. So it started way back after post-independence phase during the first government's time, when Justice MC Chagla and Mr. MC Setalwad, these two advocates were there. They were the members of Law Commission, and at that time they endorsed an idea where they said that there should be a bar, there should be a limitation, there should be a restriction on the post-retirement phase, where you are not allowed to take any kind of job offer from the government. You should not take any kind of public offices, and you should not favor government in any way after retirement. That is going to hamper the judiciary's integrity, judiciary's reliability, and the independence of the judiciary. That would not be maintained if you do that, because you have held a very sensitive and very important seat. And now when you are going to be there, you are going to be appointed as some judge of the tribunal where government is appointing you, and government itself is going to come up in front of you, is going to plead before you in some case. So how you can maintain your impartiality? You would become partial. So Justice Chagla violated the very same principle he had supported after his retirement. You see, many insecurities they surround a person after post-retirement phase, after retirement, and in this post-retirement phase, when his age is above 60, and he may be scared of many disease and all. So many insecurities are there. So that's obvious thing. That's a genuine concern that that person would be wanting to secure his future. But you see, many safeguards are already there, and if that person is taking a job from a government's offer, then certainly it would be under suspicion. So Mr. MC Chagla, the Nehru's administration, he appointed him as an ambassador to USA, High Commissioner to UK, and later Education Minister for 3 years, and later External Affairs Minister for 2 years. So these all were important jobs he held after retirement phase. So Mr. Setalwad, who was along with him in the Law Commission, in his book My Life, Law and Other Things, he did not mince words in commenting on this serious lapse of Mr. MC Chagla. He observed that Law Commission had, after careful consideration, expressed the unanimous view that the practice of a judge looking forward to accepting employment under the government after retirement was undesirable, and it could affect the independence of the judiciary. And Mr. Chagla, he was so keen to get into politics that soon after the report was signed by him, he resigned his office to become India's ambassador to United States. And this self-seeking attitude of many of our leading men, that is certainly harmful for the future of India. And that was the right interpretation, because these political gains, we see many IAS officers who are taking into politics and who are joining some parties. Many cases we have seen in the last 2-3 years, and some are working as important portfolios. They are union ministers, and these were former bureaucrats, and many examples we have seen from judiciary also. So these kind of things are really under suspicion. We cannot say that these things are undesirable, but these are under immense suspicion. There is a important solution to this problem. If we compare India's problem with some developed countries where these retirements are not happening on young age like India, you see that person at the age of 65 or above 60, that is at the ripe age, and he is at the peak of his experience and his intelligence and his decision making power, because the experience is the most important thing. And in this age, that person His talent is totally wasted if he retires early. But in developed countries, these people, they don't retire up till 70 75 years of age, because that is the most important phase, and they can add many important contributions to India's progress, or their country's progress. If these people are healthy, health is a major concern. If these people are healthy, then certainly these are the best people on the job. So that thing we should change. And you see, legislators, they don't seem to come up with any kind of legislation very soon about it. So Supreme Court here should take the step. The way Supreme Court issued the guidelines, Vishaka guidelines, in the case of harassment of the working women. So they brought these excellent Vishaka guidelines, and on this particular guidelines, the act regarding the harassment on the workplace, that became possible. So in the same method, Supreme Court should intervene here, and that should take this particular responsibility to rectify this thing. And this raising the bar on this retirement age, that is of ultimate importance, and because it is the area of judicial decision making, it is the judiciary where experience is the most important tool for these judges, and this experience is at its peak on this age of 60 to 65. So we should not retire these people at this age. That is the most important solution. And accepting the job offers from governments and all, that can be good, that can be bad. It all depends on your intention and your strategy. But certainly these things would be under suspicion. Nobody can deny that you have taken the job out of some kind of favor that you are making to the government, or you are revealing some very sensitive details and very sensitive working of these institutions. So that is why this issue is important. And one more thing that I told you, that person should not be wasted. His talent should not be wasted. As in the case of Mr. MC Chagla, there was no question about his integrity, about his competence, and about his abilities, and he did all these jobs after retirement in a very fine way, and he was an important administrator also. But you see, it is not the case with all these people, all the judges, and we should come up with some kind of specific guidelines regarding that. So Supreme Court should come up with these guidelines. So that is the suggestion under this particular article. The article 31 is discussed here, where the decision was taken by MC Chagla, and that was important. So these are the evidences which are showing his competence, and it is showing that MC Chagla was not that person where we blame that person to take some kind of favor from the government. Maybe that administration, they wanted to take advantage of his competence, his own abilities, and they wanted to give him important works, important responsibilities that no other person was capable of. So that may be the case, but these kind of governments and these kind of administrations are no more there. Here today all political parties, they want to take favors from these people. And as I told you, out of 170 judges, they are taking jobs and assignments under National Human Rights Commission, National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, and Armed Forces Tribunal and Law Commission of India, in these banks and all. So there they are on important positions, on important working as judges. Okay, so maybe in some cases government would appear in front of them and they would plead before them. So these are appointed by the government, these offers are given to them by the government, and government itself is going to plead before them. So that is the issue of partiality. Okay, so we need to manage this issue, and Supreme Court can take the initial steps here. That is the article all about. Okay, the Vishaka case is discussed here. All these points I have discussed, and you can read them as in this text of the article. Next issue is also very crucial. It is talking about the interpretation of the history. Here the writer is saying getting India's history right. It is giving the example of great writers like Bipin Chandra, that he is the person, or maybe some other persons which were legendary, and their interpretation of the history was really important, positive, neutral, and helpful. But many quacks are there today, and they are actually interpreting history according to their own will, according to their own mind, and these things are certainly not the real history. And you see, because of the politics today, we have come to so low a level that we are using history and historical figures just to gain votes, and we are comparing ourselves, means these political parties and these political figures, they are comparing themselves to these great leaders of the pre-independence phase. Maybe you can talk about Nehru and Patel's ideological differences, maybe you can talk about Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose, but you see, in the right historical interpretation, we would never find these kind of dirty blame shiftings, and these kind of dirty politics, and these kind of personal allegations against each other. We never find these kind of things. We always found the ideological differences, but in the personal capacities, these people always respected each other, because they all knew that every other person is thinking about the country in its own capacity, in its own interest. But their ultimate aim is to create the future of this country, and that may be of any type, that may be based on any kind of ideology, maybe Hindutva, maybe secular character, maybe socialistic, maybe capitalistic, anything. But these all people are concerned about India's future. But today's political parties, and I'm saying this, today's political parties, they don't care about this country at all. No political party they care about this thing at all, and they have created this iconoclast culture in this country, where we have suspicions now on all these personalities, because the interpretation, so low level interpretation, third class interpretation they have done for these personalities, and they are using them, they are erecting their statues and all, and they are actually demolishing their whole glory, and in the future nobody can make them ideals, because these all things are controversial. In the past, since independence, many people, many generations, they have led their lives based on their lessons, their understandings, their directions. Maybe it's Gandhi, maybe it's Patel, maybe it's Nehru, maybe it's Subhash Chandra Bose, and any person. But all these people were great in the textbooks, in the public domain, and in the people's mind. These all people were great. They were different in their ideologies, in their pathways, but certainly these all people were great. But now today we are actually shooting Gandhi's effigies. What can be worse for India? And what we are spreading here, and all these political parties, they are endorsing these kind of moves because it is beneficial for them. They can give very shocking and very important headlines to their media partners, and certainly they would create a particular sensation in the public, and anyhow they would provoke their emotions, and they would channel their emotions into their vote banks. That is the very nice way, and they are destroying history for all their personal gains. If we talk about Nehru and Patel, you see, both people, they were most crucial, and today's future, that is dependent on their contribution. You see, without AIMS, without IITs, without our space advancements, these ISRO-like organizations, data fundamental research and all, these all things were the result of Nehru's socialistic policies and his own awareness and his statesmanship, and that was the true statesmanship. And the impossible task that was made possible by Patel, that unification of this country, unification of all these states, that was unparalleled in the world history. Nobody could do that task. So both these people's contribution, that was inevitable, and that was most important, and that actually created the basis for this country's future, where these Britishers, they left India by saying that this country is impossible, because there are many points of discord, and every day you can divide this country in many parts, and this country is not going to be there. there was no country called India, and there can never be a country called India, because this country is impossible and so huge. This diversity, differences, languages, everything is there. But you see, these two people, the socialistic policy of Nehru and Patel's wit and his ability to unify this country, they made this thing possible. So actually we should appreciate their collaboration, we should appreciate their working. Instead of that, so dirty minded politics is going on today, and these horrible minded leaders today, which we hail them so great these days, they are actually creating this iconoclast culture, and that was so glorifying, that was so great for India. These all people, whether it was Gandhi, whether it was Jinnah, whether it was Nehru, whether it was Patel, whether it was SC Bose, they were all fighting their own battles. Results, what kind of results they brought, that's a different thing. The interpretation of their own deeds and what were the important outcomes that followed, that's a different interpretation, and we can talk about that in a different way, and that can be positive, that can be negative for all these people. But certainly they were thinking about the future of India, and we have no right to talk about these great people sitting on the roadside when we have no knowledge of history. We don't read any kind of political ideologies, we don't read great people's biographies, and we don't know what Keynesian idea was all about, what is capitalism. We don't read about the Constitution of India, and we say that that person was Nehru was horrible or Patel was horrible, and these people, they did not do anything for India, and this is all total bullshit. And actually we are destroying our nation, and so glorified this nation is. But that is why we are getting these kind of comments. A great comment and very scathing comment made on Indian people by a person called Eric Alterman from New York. A nation, he's talking about India, whose citizens have no knowledge of history, is asking to be led by quacks, charlatans and jingos. And actually these people are ruling India today. Any kind of political party can be there. They can be in government, they can be in opposition, and all these parties, they are real quacks, they are real jingos. They all talk about patriotism, they all talk about raising important issues and all, but their ultimate aim only is to gain votes. They can collaborate with any kind of party whom they were not ready to talk. They were spitting on each other's faces, but now they are licking their faces. That can be possible for any party, any a particular political establishment of today. No single party today is of that standard where they are destroying these icons, because we always take inspiration from the positive things of these long gone people and these great people. We don't talk about Gandhi's personal life. We don't talk about what kind of relationship was there between Gandhi and his wife. We don't talk about that. We talk about his way of peace. We talk about his way of ahimsa, and that was the world renowned thing. But today what we are doing, what we are talking, that is in public domain, and that these things are shameful for this country. So that is why we should take history in a positive way, and we should interpret history in the mature way, and we should read a lot, we should understand a lot. We should read about Constitution of India, we should read about all historical books related to India, we should read about all important legacies, all important biographies of these people. We should learn about political ideologies. Then only we will come to know that these fights are different from the ideological differences. These dirty blame games are far way different from ideological differences. Ideological difference is a respectable thing, and these dirty politics that is going on, that is totally a devastation for a country like India, where this iconoclast culture is prevailing. Okay, so the next article and next issues we are going to take tomorrow, and only one small article is left, and that is also not of much importance. You see, it is talking about the Niti Aayog's SDG India Index report. It is talking about the states and how their methodology, the writer is saying that how their methodology is not up to that mark where we can clear all these things about their goals, about their working, and we can make future plans regarding that. So although they have done a commendable job and they are progressing in according to their standards, but the statistical methods they are using and all these particular ways they have adopted, they have created these indicators, and the way they are pursuing these goals and bringing out these datas, that is a problem somewhere. Okay, that is why he's saying that the SDG India Index overlooks the aspect of interdependence of sustainable development goals. Goals are very important. We have targets for our energy sector, we have targets for disease, especially the AIDS and malaria. We have goals for 2030 which are going to end with the sustainable development goals. For TB we have set the year of 2025, that is 5 years ahead of this sustainable development goals end. So all these indicators, all these goals are very crucial. So we will talk about this later. Thanks a lot, keep watching. It was Amit Saini.